And, and if everybody would please mute.
Except for Lisa, of course. So it's my pleasure to introduce Lisa Gauthier. She may not remember this, but I met her years ago. We were talking about fledgling legislators, and the when she had just been elected to the East Palo Alto City Council, I was a leader with Faith in Action, which was then called Peninsula Interfaith Action, and we met with her, and we all came away very impressed with this young new city council member. So I was, just wanted to put that in there. So Lisa was elected in November 24. So this is her first year as the Board of Supervisors, and we're very excited about about her walking in, she was ready to take on issues from day one. And so I appreciated that a lot, that she was she is an experienced legislator. She's used to talking to the community, and I appreciate her very much about that. And District 4 includes Redwood City, East Palo Alto, and areas within Menlo Park, east of El Camino, and including the Bellhaven neighborhood and unincorporated community of North Fair Oaks. Um, and I won't go on with the rest of what was on our newsletter that you probably already read, but it's my pleasure to introduce Lisa and have her tell her own story.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to see so many familiar faces. As you can see, I'm still sitting here in the office tonight, just ahead of our big meeting tomorrow to meet the candidates. But it is a privilege to be with Democracy for America and with so many community leaders who believe, as I do, that democracy begins at home, in our neighborhoods, our schools, and our local governments. In San Mateo County, we are working every day to make democracy real, not just as a concept, but as a lived experience rooted in equity, transparency, and care. Again, it's an honor to be with you tonight. I believe the last time we were together, Diana, we were in your backyard where we were sharing a meal and judging the No Kings posters, which I believe everybody won.
And you did a fine job with that role too. Yeah.
Thank you. As you've heard, after 12 years of serving on East Palo Alto City Council, serving as mayor and vice mayor 3 times each, I am so proud and excited to have been elected to San Mateo County Boards of Supervisors, serving District 4. And as you've heard from Diana, it covers East Palo Alto, a portion of Menlo Park, east of Menlo Park, El Camino to Bellhaven, the unincorporated area of North Fair Oaks, Redwood City, which includes Redwood Shores. In this role, I carry the weight of being the first directly elected Black woman to the Board of Supervisors. But I realize I'm not the first to serve, as I stand on the shoulders of Rose Jacobs Gibson, who is a great leader. And I also want to acknowledge my predecessor, Warren Slocum, who I understand is a friend of this club as well. In my previous role, before being elected to the Board of Supervisors, I served as the Senior Vice President of Inclusion and Belonging with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, where I led work that were initiatives and work that focused on workforce development, education, racial justice and equity, health equity, and healthcare innovation. I know that this president would like us not to use DEI, but I can't help myself. It's in my DNA, and it's what I've done and what I've worked on. And I know, as this group knows, DEI has never harmed anyone, and we need to find a way to reclaim that terminology and the meaning of DEI and what it's meant to our communities, and take it back from the president. The other part of my life is being a mother and a grandmother. As many of you know, I raised 3 amazing young adults as a single mother, but the most exciting time I have title has been that of grandmother. I'm a grandmother to a 5-year-old grandson. He just turned 5 on the 2nd of November. And Camden is my heart and the light of my life. All the work that I do here in San Mateo County for equity in and a more just and fair area is really for him and his generation. We want to make sure that he has a place, and his generation has a place to thrive, and live here in San Mateo County. Democracy thrives when people are empowered to shape the policies that affect their lives. That's why I've supported initiatives that reflect our community's most urgent needs, like food insecurity, protection and support for our immigrant neighbors, community equity, public safety and accountability, affordable housing, and childcare, just to name a few. Tonight, I will give some remarks, but I'm going to leave time to answer questions. So let's get started and talk about what's happening on the federal level. To say there's a lot going on in our country right now is under our federal administration is an understatement. Quite frankly, it makes everything going on in San Mateo County with our sheriff tame in comparison. We'll talk a little bit about the sheriff a little bit later, but we know that there's a lot going on. We know we were warned about the second Trump administration or presidency, but the majority of the voters just didn't believe it. Now we're seeing Project 25 unfold before our eyes, and it's only been a few months, believe it or not, and it feels like years under this administration. And as an African American person here in this country, I feel like we're turning back the time where we know that this administration would like nothing more than to reel back the Voter Rights Act that made it possible for my ancestors and for me to vote, which is so important. That's why I don't care what the election is, I will always show up and vote because it's important to me. People lived and died so that I would have the right to vote. And that is what's important. I recall going to the polls with my mother when I was a little girl. So when I became an adult, I took my children. Now I see my daughter taking my grandson into the polls when she goes to vote in person so he can see the importance of our democracy and the importance of the right to vote. I never envisioned seeing the destruction of the balance of power in America. I know that many of you never thought that this would ever happen. But it's hard to believe that it is, if we don't fight, it will happen. And I am proud to see that Prop 50 passed last night, and it's due to a lot of your hard work. When you think about where we are, we're on day 36 of the federal government shutdown. I think this is the longest time that the government has been shut down. And because of that, we have families and children going hungry because they don't have access to the food benefits, otherwise known as SNAP and CalFresh. And here in San Mateo County, we have 35,000 recipients on CalFresh food assistance program who are waiting for benefits so that they can purchase food needed to sustain their families. No family should go hungry because the government is trying to make a point. Our constituents should not be the pawns in this game. And here at the board level, last week we appropriated $900,000 so that core service agencies will be able to purchase food. And more specifically, because we heard from Second Harvest that protein was something that they couldn't purchase, they will be able to utilize those funds to buy holiday protein so that families could survive. And as we continue to monitor the situation with this government shutdown, we are prepared and following and watching, and if needed, we're prepared to do even more to make sure that our families have the resources they need to go to the store and buy the food that they need. We have federal workers expected to show up for work, but who are not getting paid in a timely manner or at all because of this shutdown. And it is ironic that the Republicans who have the majority in Congress and the presidency and control a lot somehow want to blame the Democrats whenever something goes wrong. So we know that it is not our fault. I am proud of those who are in DC who are standing up and fighting and pushing back because we need more of that. It feels like others on the Republican side are just handing everything over to this current administration. And if we can make it make sense, I would love for this all to make sense, and it doesn't. But again, if there's definitely a bright spot, So I'm again so happy to hear about Prop 50 and see the passage. I wasn't surprised. I wish we had a greater turnout. I'm always wanting more people to participate, but I'm happy for the work that happened into making sure that that's a possibility. It shows that people still care about the fundamentals of democracy. And I know that many of you walked, called, text for Prop 50. So again, thank you. We saw Abigail Spanberger become the new Democratic governor of Virginia and Mickey Sherrill become the new Democratic governor of New Jersey. Let's keep the winning going. We still have a lot of work to do. We can't give up. We have to keep fighting because when we fight, we know we win. Let's show Republicans what a Democratic comeback looks like in the midterms. I am committed, as I know you are, to doing the work. Let's move on to childcare because I know that's something that we're all eager to know about. It has been an honor to serve with my colleague Jackie Spear, who has been we've been holding town hall meetings around San Mateo County regarding this important issue of childcare. As a single mother and as someone who is helping to raise my grandson, it is so important and essential that we give parents access to quality, affordable childcare. This federal administration demands that people work in order to receive benefits, but how can they work if they can't afford childcare? Or if childcare is simply not available for them when they need it? We've learned so much from the last few months of our listening sessions. From parents, the cost is just too high and is proving to be a barrier for many families, with some mothers choosing to leave the workforce because they just can't afford childcare. It doesn't make sense for them. We've heard from providers who are seeking spaces. They're seeing that their spaces go empty, and Jackie and I are trying to do a deep dive into why there's so many empty spots in home daycare spaces. From providers, we're also seeing a challenge in hiring accredited caregivers. While the Wall Street Journal reports that San Mateo County has the fifth most expensive childcare in the nation, with a median cost of $128,000 for 5 years of daycare up to kindergarten. This is just not sustainable, and it's scary for me and many families. As Supervisor Spear and I wrap up our listening sessions, we'll be working with our staff members and the county executives to see what policies we can initiate to lower the cost burden and help more families. We know that many women are the ones that are being impacted when they have to leave the workforce, and we know that it's difficult sometimes to get back into the workforce. And the cost of living is so damn high here in San Mateo County. We know it takes two incomes to carry a household here. On November 19th, Jackie and I will be holding our last town hall on the San Mateo County coast at the Half Moon Bay Library. And it was important to us to make sure that we make our way to the coast as opposed to always expecting them to come to us. So if you're in the area on the 19th, we would love for you to join us to hear that session as well. Now I'm going to move on to the sheriff. On October 14th, my colleagues and I voted unanimously to remove Sheriff Christina Corpus from office, months after the voters in San Mateo County passed Measure A to amend the county charter. This was after extensive investigations, confirmations of conflict of interest, misuse of authority, and retaliation by the sheriff. I took no pleasure in removing Sheriff Corpus. I was hopeful that she would do better. I, like many others, supported her when she ran because we were hoping for something different and something better for our county. We had a listening session last week on the qualities we'd like to see in our new appointed sheriff. And while I took the call from Rome, I hope many of you are watching and participating in the work, because this process has to be transparent. It has to include community, and we have to hear your voices. And I know we've received a lot of questions and a lot of input for the next session. The names of all of the applicants up for this position were released today. So hopefully you've had a chance to see that. And if you haven't, it can be viewed on the county's website along with their credentials and a video of all of the applicants. We're having a meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m., which you can view virtually, where we'll interview the candidates. Then we'll make a decision next week on November 12th. I think tomorrow we have to whittle it down to 3 or 4 that we will be moving forward to next week. With everything that's been happening with the sheriff's appointment, my core value has been community and transparency. We have to make sure that community is involved. Community engagement is important and critical. So I want to thank everyone who has participated so far. Please continue to chime in and help us through this process. I knew I wanted to leave some time for question and answers. I hope that was a good update for you, but I'm here now to take any questions that you may have. Hopefully I have answers.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And Elsa, I'll let you go ahead and start us off. And please go ahead and raise your hand so we get people's questions in order.
Thank you so much, Lisa. First, for that whole overview, that was stunning. And then both of these major issues. I'm going to hop to your last one and ask, what are you in particular looking for in a next sheriff? And I don't mean names, but what aspects? What do you hope to see brought to it? What kind of experience?
I think for me, integrity is really important. You have to be who you say you are when nobody else is watching. So that leadership, the integrity, is and accountability in a sheriff is very important. I'm looking for someone who's going to care about the community, the whole county. It can't and looking for somebody who's going to protect those who are most vulnerable. Those are some of the qualities that I'm looking for in the person that will fill the gap of this term. So I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody tomorrow. And, as we have heard in some of the questions that we've received, where do they stand on immigrant rights? Where do they stand on oversight? What's their office culture going to be like? What's important to them? How do they carry themselves? How do they value their employees? And what's their relationship with community? I know for me, my chief of police in East Palo Alto, and we've had an opportunity to hire, I was looking for somebody who understood community policing. How are you going to work with the community is very valuable. And at the same time, how do we restore the dignity to that office? And one other thing is just the oversight for the jails. There's been a lot of issues in the jails, and we need somebody who understands and who's going to look over that. And then as a county, there are just some things that we need to fix. I hope that's helpful.
That was stunning.
Thank you. Marshall, you're up next.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a really excellent summary of the criteria. But I wanted to ask a question about the child care issue, since I know you're very involved in that with Jackie Spear as well. So yesterday, as we all know, the mayor-elect of New York City, Mondani, made it clear that he is hoping to fulfill his campaign promise to offer free universal childcare in New York City. So my question is, what's your take on that position? And can San Mateo County do such a thing, California? And what would it take?
So that is a great question. I know that, when we think about, we have to figure out how that's going to be covered. I think when Jackie and I have had some conversations, it's where is the most need? I think if we could help with infant to at least TK, because we do have TK programs that the youth can go to. And we need to understand what that financial gap is going to be. I think with the passage of HB 63, we know we're going to be at our cap for our taxes in our county. So now we have to sit back and think about where can we pull those resources to make sure that we're covering that gap and taking care of families. But ideally, yes, we would love to be able to provide the care. And I think we're going to start with a pilot program first to see what's needed before we identify the whole program. But hopefully it's going to be infant to, what is that, 3-year-old, 2-year-old before they go to TK? I can't remember.
4.
4. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at.
All right. Ashley, you're next.
Okay, back to the sheriff. Um, for San Mateo County has paid dearly through the years by not having oversight over the sheriff's department. And our club has been very frustrated for this. I'm, not blaming you for you're a newbie. This was all before your time. But there, on more than one occasion, we spoke to supervisors about this issue, which is a nationwide issue, a lack of oversight over sheriff's departments. And we were told time and again that the only power the Board of Supervisors had over the sheriff's department was the power of the purse. And then California passed that bill, was it AB or SB 1185? That said squarely, this is the responsibility of the Board of Supervisors. And so we've been working, and I'm glad Nancy Goodban is here because she's been our champion. But so we've been working on this, and I'm just wondering what you see, and I know that the advisory commission that was set up is looking for an inspector general with subpoena powers. So we won't continue just being reactive to terrible things that happen, but will become proactive. What is your feeling about that?
Hi, Gregory.
Okay. No, that is a great question. And I've been looking at that, and I feel like over the last 2, 3 sheriffs, you're right, there have been a lot of issues. So I'm trying to understand what the inspector general, how do we implement the inspector general? And I know, Nancy, you and I are going to be talking with a group about the inspector general and what that would actually look like. It's having 3 supervisors who are willing to implement it. Anything that we do, you have to be able to count to 3. So continue to that work so that we can get something like that passed.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Diana, you're next.
Thank you. Well, I have 2 questions. One, what time is the town hall in Half Moon Bay on the 19th?
Where is Nicole? Do you have that?
You can
Sorry,
put
can
it
you
in
repeat the
chat
question?
if you'd like to, because
Yeah.
we can then put it in our newsletter to make sure that people are aware of it. But my other question is that for the what I just wondered, what is the actual in the San Mateo County sort of way, the constitutional requirements of a sheriff? They need to be a certified law an officer, right? But what are the other requirements of a sheriff?
That is a great question, and my binder is not in front of me with all of the requirements that are needed. I know we went through some of the requirements, like their background, the extra education, and I'll have to get more information to you. It's not in front of me, but I know even we talked about the things that are important, and we put through for this appointment what those requirements were going to be. But I also think that they should pass a background check. We should be able to look in their background and make sure there's nothing there that we're not aware of. Oftentimes people get to their positions and then we find that there's something that was questionable. But we can get that information. I will get that information to you. It's just not here right now.
Okay, thanks. I want to switch back to childcare
Sure.
because, and Marshall asked one of the questions I had, but the second one was, I was listening to a talk with Ro Khanna this morning, and he mentioned his childcare piece and looking at it as Canada does, where you would be paying $10 a day for childcare. And they implemented that, I believe, through a tax on the wealthy. What about, as you're looking at new plans, what about something that would be like that? And he was looking at it at the federal level. Is that something maybe we can again do locally? Um, just to, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I thought that was a really good, interesting one.
Yeah, so has he implemented that tax already yet, or is it
No,
something
no,
he's
it's in,
considering?
well, it's in Congress, and nothing is happening. Nothing's getting done in Congress.
No, and I think that here, that's what we're trying to figure out what that tax, is it going to be a tax? Can we do um something with the businesses where because the businesses will benefit with childcare because you'll have somebody who can go to work, right? So
Right.
what does that look like? We just have not come to that understanding yet. And again, when you look at all of the taxes that are taking place right now, we've reached the cap for the San Mateo County. We cannot add another tax in the county right now, like a sales tax. We couldn't do a sales
Can,
tax.
can you talk about that for a little bit? Because I want to know more because I'm going, you said the bill, and I'm going, oh, I'm going to have to look into that. Could
Yeah,
you?
so the state, it is my understanding, if I say this the right way, because I've been talking to our legal team, you can only go to a certain level when it comes to sales tax. You can't really go above a certain number.
Okay.
And with SB 63, once passed, it will put us at our cap. So there, we don't have the capacity to add another sales tax unless we go to the state and get permission to increase it. Now, people are already saying the cost of living is so high here. We have to figure out where those resources are going to come from and what we can do so that we don't make it even more difficult to live in our region.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Allison, you're up next.
Hello. Sorry, we're not on video since we're eating dinner. But I had a question. We heard in the news that ex-Sheriff Christina Corpus retired under duress before she could be fired, and that means she could still be getting 90% of her salary as pension. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that, and if I guess it's just feels bad to have so much taxpayer money going to her after her retirement. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have all the details, but I know that there was a provision that set up that since she had worked for the county for so long, and it wouldn't just be for her position. I think she had the opportunity. We did fire her first, and once that happened, she had with if she retired within 24 hours, they would allow her to retire. So she was able to retire after put in her retirement after we fired her. Yes.
Darn. Okay, Bill Newell, you're up next.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. My fourth district representative, I want to thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing. You're making us proud. I want to ask you a question about I guess the sheriff to be. One of the concerns, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is that federal immigration agents have continued to be escalating attacks on our immigrant community, not just here, but around the country. And I'm wondering how you view the role of the sheriff in protecting our community from those actions, such as what's happened in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, and Evanston, Illinois. What do you think the sheriff can do in those situations?
They cannot participate with ICE. It's plain and simple, just not participate. And that's what we've called for in many of our cities and our counties that the sheriff not participate and turn people over to ICE.
Well,
So
I understand that, but my question goes more to the situation where if you have immigration agents coming into your community and randomly picking people up because of the color of their skin or pulling them out of their cars without judicial warrants, it's those kind of concerns that our community is scared and very fearful of, and American citizens have now been taken into custody in those situations.
yeah, Bill, the hard part is that we don't know where they're going to show up. Right. And so we've done everything and we continue to make sure that people know their rights and they're prepared. It is tragic that our residents, our neighbors don't feel comfortable going out, going to work, going to school, sending their kids to school. That is just unfortunate. Where I've seen with the police, our police departments aren't cooperating with ICE. So I don't know how we stop it if we don't know where they're going to be or where they're going to pick somebody up. We can't be on every street corner, right? And I know there was somebody picked up it's my understanding, somebody was detained or picked up in North Fair Oaks. Somebody was picked up in East Palo Alto. We learn about those things after the fact, when we don't know where they're taking them. We just don't understand. I would love to be able to set up more of ice-free zones similar to what Santa Clara has done, but I don't know if that stops them. So I would love to have more of a conversation of what can we do to prevent it from happening. I know we were looking at potential of ICE really being in the Bay Area, and I understand Daniel Lurie called the president. The president called that off, but they're still in Alameda and they're still showing up in our community. I just don't know what else we could do to prevent it. I think that's it. But I'm open for options or understanding what it is we can do.
Well, if they're unidentified, then you don't know who they are, and
Yeah.
that could be assault and battery on somebody in any other situation that you would see on the streets in your neighborhood if you saw that happening.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. Nancy, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Lisa, for doing the town halls on childcare. That is so important. Thank you to all the supervisors in the county for putting back to the sheriff thing, putting that all online and so promptly posting the candidate comments and videos. And I liked your notion that somebody needs to know how to do community policing and really be committed to that. Because I think one thing missing here in our county is that expertise in modern policing that was there. It was Christina Corpus's promise, but she didn't really carry it out. So that and your comment about the importance of the jail, it does seem like it should be someone with really executive level experience in a sheriff's office, which includes overseeing corrections, because some of the people may not have that experience. And I think jumping into a job without really knowing the top level sheriff work and the difficulty and challenges of corrections is huge. Because we've talked to people who are working in corrections, line staff and supervisors, and they're really struggling at the jail right now. They're devastated by the deaths and the difficulty. So they
Yeah,
really need someone to help them.
yeah, you don't expect to you go to jail, you expect to come home from it. If you do go, you don't expect to not come home safe. So, having that in place, and hopefully, look, there's 7 people that are up for
Mhm.
this role. And hopefully we will elect or appoint somebody who has that experience as well. And if not, hopefully the next person will surround themselves with people who are qualified and who will
Mhm.
have experience as well. It's oftentimes you don't have everything, but so then you go in and you fill the gap with somebody who has what you don't have. So as a whole group, you're well-rounded.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you.
All right. Joanne?
Yes, I was watching Mom Donnie on a show, and he said he was going to be trying to pay for the child care with a 2% tax increase on millionaires and also to make the tax rate on corporations and businesses in New York the same as in New Jersey, the neighboring state, which was 6 to 7%, which was a increase. So that was kind of how he was planning on supporting childcare.
Okay.
And I know San Mateo County used to, when I ran my school, have the program where they paid a percentage and we just covered the rest of the childcare.
Mhm.
Still have that? For
I
school?
don't know. I don't know which program that is.
I can look up. It ran for years and years and years. I did it every year for over 20 some 25 years. um so they paid, it wasn't full tuition, but we just
Mhm.
covered the rest and the county paid for it, and it was for working moms.
Yeah, and we need more of that. You know, again, as a grandmother, I'm hoping to raise my grandson, so I've seen firsthand what it means for my daughter. She has a job. She doesn't make a lot of money, like she can't go and purchase a home, but she makes too much to get free daycare. And so there were spots that there were times where we couldn't put my grandson into some programs because of her income, but to have to pay full tuition and full childcare would be difficult. She has a job that pays a stipend, that pays it's a small portion, but at least as an employer, they're thinking about their employees and their children, so they provide a stipend. I just think we have to find a way to help more people, more mothers, more parents, with daycare. There were parents that were paying $4,000 a month for daycare. Not everybody can afford that. If you have an infant and a toddler, that's a lot of money to go out to pay, but you still need to work. So we're looking for those solutions for sure.
Yeah, the parents still had to work. They had to fill out sheets for the state, and then we just signed it that yes, they did, and basically it was, I'd say it was about, they offered like 60% or something of the tuition, and we covered the other 40%. So it was a pretty good deal for the parents because they covered, then they didn't have to contribute to it, or if it was just a very small portion that parents had to contribute. Worked for
Yeah,
you.
we're looking forward to, we talked about having a portal with all the daycare providers and information, because we also have home daycare providers who are saying that we have space, but we can't find the students that will go into the space. So some of the home daycare providers are closing because they can't fill their spaces, yet there's a need for childcare. So that's what we're trying to figure out,
Yeah,
where the greatest need is, where are the gaps that need to be filled. Then also, when you think about childcare, there are people, what happens to the families that work overnight or work a swing shift or a night shift or work on the weekends? Where's the daycare providers for that as well? So there's a lot to this that we need to look at and kind of help to fill the gap in that way.
yeah. I don't know if the 4Cs, the Child Care Coordinating Council, still exists. Or,
Yes.
I mean, they used to have all that information.
Right.
They do. They're at the table and they're part of it. They've been attending the meetings with us. I think the 4Cs, they've attended every listening session. We've had home daycare providers, parents, and the 4Cs, and they've been there to answer questions as well. So they're a partner also.
Yeah, and I know we were a Head Start school as well, so uh, we participated in that, and I guess they're not doing so well either because they
Yeah.
were paid and having to close down.
Yeah, I think that's that. When we heard from providers who were saying that when the state pays them, they pay them a portion, which is very difficult to run a program if you're paying a certain amount, but you're only getting a portion of what you're providing back. That is not sustainable for any business. It's not, you can't do that. Like, pay them, the state should be paying what the providers are, what it costs the providers to provide the service, not a portion of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Nancy. you're next.
Yeah, hi. I have just a kind of really basic question about, again, the sheriff's candidates. It looks like there's a very robust slate of candidates, and I'm just curious if the supervisors had an expectation about the number of candidates they get, and is that less than or more than the candidates you actually got?
I don't know that we had an expectation of how many candidates we would get. We knew it was a quick turnaround. Part of the charter is that we had to, if we decided to appoint, we had to have this filled by the 13th of November. So we knew we were working against a time frame, a tight time frame. And then the fact that we wanted to be very transparent, that may have pushed, caused some people not to apply or initially, but we really wanted to make sure it was a transparent process, that people knew what was going on, and you had to be able to be ready to apply for it right away because it was a limited amount of time to get all that information in.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
And Lisa, I want to make sure we set the stage for everybody. This is going to be an appointment that'll run through 2028?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
This is to fill the remaining term of the sheriff.
Okay, great. And that was something that was decided last week in the Board of Supervisors meeting. Correct.
It was decided last week. Some of my concern, I don't know about my colleagues, but my concern with going to an election, with a short time frame, it became I was concerned of like who's going to apply would probably mean that you have to have the resources and you're popular. Like it was the concern of who those candidates could be, and I thought we would leave out other candidates who would be just as qualified, because it takes time to stand up a campaign and raise the money for it.
And money, yes.
Yes, money's a big thing.
And you've got to become known, and that.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Elsa, question for you.
Thank you. I'm undone. Lisa, thank you so much. I have to say, I saw parts of the last two board meetings, and I was just so grateful for the practical decision making you brought to it. I think particularly in that second one, where there was sort of some back and forth on a number of fronts, and you just went right in for, and I don't, I don't know whether it was your grandmother speaking or what, but it was fabulously decisive. I hope that's not a negative to anybody, by the way. I was just thinking that's probably not politically incorrect. But I'd like to go back to just thinking high level, what coming out of this whole last few years that are so difficult, the most important things to go for. And for me, it really does come down to how you get that community feeling so that, frankly, the law enforcement and residents feel like one, that this happens to be my job within it, but that we're all on the same team. We're all in that together. So that sense of community policing, where I too am part of the community, I really hope can come out of it. That executive level experience too. And I only recently found out that someone at the command staff level, which means a lieutenant or a captain, they can recommend who to hire or fire, but you have to be at the executive level to actually do the firing, do the hiring. And people in the know really think that there's a big difference between those two different levels. I always thought command staff sounded all powerful. But the last thing is the jail experience. Just because, with our current understaffing, it's even more tricky there now. And there, as you know better than I, there have been too many deaths we're still finding out what kinds of causes. If there's any way to have somebody who's not only worked in a jail, because apparently one of the first jobs most new people get is to work in the jail, but who's actually managed a jail system. Sounds very important. There are too many issues popping up there, whether it is not enough religious people being able to show up when people want them there. I mean, shouldn't say religious people, but people of the cloth, I'll put it that way.
Clergy.
Thank
The
you.
clergy.
Thank you very much. Shame on me. But also even visitors, like to say that, oh, but the 1 out of 5 or however many elevators that's allotted to visitors coming in is out of commission and out of commission for 4 or 5 months or whatever. So therefore we can't do it. Wait a minute, little creative thinking there of how do we take one of those other elevators and give it 2 hours a week, for visitors. And that's where that may not be the individual person who worked there as their first job, but the overall perspective. I'd love you to find somebody in that group who could help on that front.
No, when it comes to the elevators, a lot of our buildings in San Mateo County, they're aging, and the elevators just don't run. But we can do a better job of making sure that things work. In East Palo Alto, the elevators would go down, and I was like, this just doesn't make sense. And I don't know that we've had any issues with it, but we had to pay attention and make sure that we were focused on that elevator, because when people come for human services, they should be able to get up to the third floor. And if you're an elderly person or somebody who's disabled, then you can't get up there. Somebody has to come downstairs. That is East Palo Alto, and I think we were able to solve that. We need to make sure that we're solving the elevator issue with the jail so that people can visit their loved ones.
Thank you so much.
And I'm just going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Lisa, this has been really great. Not just on what's happening with the sheriff. And I know I'm hoping I can be there tomorrow for the interviews, because I one last short question.
Sure.
I haven't looked at the 7 applicants. Are they all within our sheriff's department?
No.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
No.
I was going to ask if there were people from outside. All right, great.
Yes.
And the child care. Oh, that's such an important topic. But it was so interesting to have both Ro Khanna be talking about it this morning, and last night, hearing the New York City mayor talk about it and how critical this is. So I just want to say bravo. I'm so glad you and Jackie Spear are taking this on for our community. Marshall, we are wrapping up for Lisa.
Yeah, I know. I know that you, Supervisor, and Jackie Spear must be aware of the incredibly strong data that says providing childcare, paying for it, saves everybody a lot of money. It is a boon to the economy. And so that is, and I'm sure you're aware of that information, but if you need more, I stumbled on it. I don't study the area, but it's out there, really good studies.
Yeah, we're also partnering with I partnered with our colleagues in Santa Clara County that's doing some great work. Supervisors Susan Ellenberg does a lot of work, and we've partnered on some of the work. I know in San Diego they're doing work around childcare as well. I think ultimately we just have to figure out where the resources are going to come from that's going to help pay for the service.
Right. Well, and that was Ro Khanna was going, we need to do this on a national level, not county by county, because that's just not efficient. And
Yes.
This should be something that comes from the top level because it helps all of us.
You invest in what's important to you, and our youth and our families are important, and you show that by the investment.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us tonight. I hope you get to go home now. And
I can.
Thank you again, though.
Right.
And maybe consider coming to our December holiday party, where I think we're going to do another poster contest.
Oh, yes. Nicole is on here, so make sure Nicole has the information.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Thank you, Lisa.
I want to take just a couple of minutes before we start talking about the election, because one of the things that's, and we've been talking about it too on this evening,